All right, here we go. Next video, bring them up, knock them down. That's what we're going to be doing. Just knocking out videos, giving everybody all the information that they need. I'm your boy Chadsky. Thank you for tuning in for another video. Had a stream earlier today. Really appreciate everybody jumping in. And honestly, just the reaction and response from all the videos we put up. You know, it's just been over a week that we've been doing these videos and streams and having a blast. And can't thank everybody enough. If you like what you see, like and subscribe. Hang out with me. Get your really daily content of informative real rock life videos. That's kind of how I do it and model it. Today we had the arch formation inscription tier list yesterday or before. You can see that video. And today, because everybody's just clamoring for it, we're going wedge. All right, so we're going to do this wedge thing. How we do this? Really simple, guys. We do each armament slot, and we kind of do a tier for those armament slots, right? So if you look at the codex here, we'll start with scroll, and you have all these armaments, or all these inscriptions, I should say. And for each armament, you get these inscriptions, and you're trying to kind of tier those. Where are they at? I know I want to get hunter, right? Everybody wants to get hunter, but until then, what do I get? What's good? If I get really good rolls on breaker, where's that at in this thing as far as the value goes? We work the values off of attributes and percentages, and the kind of the real rock life experience of what those inscriptions do in the field. And this is mainly for field, but with the legendary inscriptions or the special inscriptions, those are basically great for rally garrison too. If you're running high damage, skill damage rallies or skill damage garrisons, same thing. So with that being said, I'm going to leave this particular graphic up because it'll allow me to go through it. And I'm going to bring this up, okay? The first thing we're going to do is the scroll, okay? This is how we've got this thing ranked for the scroll. And as you can see this thing, all right, it is, you know, when we kind of see how this thing lays out, we have hunter as number one. Hunter is one of the best inscriptions you can get, especially for skill damage commanders and wedge commander. The one thing you have to understand about hunter, you automatically have a 5% boost to skill damage. That's awesome. That is great. That's as good as a pendant, right? Legendary accessory. When dealing direct damage to a single target, this is where it comes into play. Now there's some ambiguity here, and there's some different things that go on here that people are trying to figure out. But if you're dealing a single target, like if you have it on Henry and you deal single target, you're going to increase the damage by 10%. Otherwise, it's only increased by 2%. So if you're going AoE, it only increases that damage by 2%. I guess the way they think about it is, hey, if you hit 5 targets in an AoE, you're increasing your damage by 2% on all 5 of those targets. It equals 10%. And so this can get a little bit finicky sometimes, but ideally you want to put this on a single target damage commander, okay? And cavalry is kind of the way to go. Now, you can put it on archers. It's great there too. And a lot of AoE archers, that's awesome. But cavalry is kind of single target. Huo Nevsky. You put this on Huo Nevsky, it wrecks. It melts things. You put it on Huo Belly. You put it on Nevsky even with Joan. Or you put it on, you know, some of these other commanders. They're going to do a lot of damage. So hunter is always good. So that's your S tier, always, in this particular armament slot. Crazed is fantastic. I love Crazed because it does rage. I love rage. I love getting rage. I love taking rage away. And I hate it when I get rage taken away from me, okay? Because rage equals performance, straight up. There's no other way to put it out there. Rage equals damage, equals performance, equals everything good. So Crazed, I really, really like. You know why I like this? This is specific to deals direct damage. That's skill damage. That can be any types of direct damage. Now, here's the other part about Crazed that people don't know. And this has been tested. When you have this particular talent on your archers, okay? This commander's troops contain only archers. Whenever it has a basic attack, there's a 10% chance to deal direct damage to the target. 3% cooldown. Okay, that's like a 13 per second cycle on that, right? And so for those 13 seconds, just depending on how it lines out, you are going to grab a buff from this in Crazed. You're going to grab a buff from that, even from that talent. It has nothing to do with your active skill. Okay, so that just, it gives you more uptime and that thing fires off more. Okay, and if you get it to fire off from your talents, if you get it to fire off from, your commander, one of their support skills, if you get it to fire off from, some of the different things that the other armaments do, or especially your skill damage, then that just helps your rage that much faster. Okay, when you get away from that, the next tier, like our third tier or B tier, we'll call it Furious, is exceptional, absolutely exceptional. You gain 8% bonus damage to all types of skill damage dealt, and a 3% bonus to all types of counterattack damage dealt for 3 seconds. That's when you do an active skill. So that's you're gonna do that on your active skill, and then you're gonna have that buff for your secondary commander. Okay, so again, like Huo Nevsky, Huo fires off very fast. Boom, you get an 8% bonus to the skill damage that Nevsky's gonna do. Plus, you're gonna be a little more prickly with a 3% counterattack damage. That's awesome. Okay, love Furious, and it almost rivals Crazed with how much I like that. Okay, Robust, obviously, there is number 2. What you'll see in these tier lists is that we'll have the health at the top, and then the next one down will always be the defense. Next one down will always be the attack. Now you might have other things in there with them, but that's kind of how we rank those. Because in the C category or the 4th category, we just have well clad, keep it easy, 3.5% defense. I think that is better than all the ones in the D category, but the D category's got a lot. You've got your attack in there. You've got Ward is always a pretty good one. 5% less damage when you do an active skill for 3 seconds. That's really pretty good. I think that translates into, 15% skill damage for 8 seconds. You're going to fire that off pretty good. So you're actually getting over 2% skill damage reduction when you have Ward. Pulverize is another one that's really, really good. And so Pulverize gives you a 20 bonus to all types of normal damage. So you get a quick prickliness to this proc that goes off, which I think is pretty good. And so when you get that, it works out really, really well. Then Calm, whenever the wielder's troops use an active skill, 30% chance to gain 10% attack. I think that equals out to be about almost 3.5% attack over the duration. So it puts it in the category of Warcry. And so I always like that. Breaker's great. Breaker's like a little mini web. You're going to reduce the defense for 15 or for 3 seconds of 15% of the enemy. So it's a kind of a cool thing to reduce their defense. A cool little debuff that's like a skill. I mean, it's great. Enraged is also there, 2.5% skill damage boost, and or 2.5% more skill damage, and all types of counterattack of 1%. So that's always a pretty good one. So you can see the other ones down here in the E category. These are just little things that, hey, 1% damage, 1.5% normal damage. Phalanx, there's not a lot of value to this, if you ask me. 100% or 100 factor for a shield. Okay, so you can see that they're fine. They're not awful. They give you some benefit, but they're not going to be of the higher tier class. And then at the bottom, you got Loose. Loose does nothing for you. It gives you 1% less normal damage of all types. That's it. It's one of the V formation ones. So that gives you an idea of the scroll, and you can kind of figure out exactly, okay, I have these inscriptions. Okay, let me really look at these. If you got any questions, you can throw them in the comments. You can go to my Discord. Encourage everybody to do that. You can always ask me, like, hey, why do you have Valiant a little bit lower than Enraged? Or why is Well Clad higher than Calm or Breaker? So we can get into all that stuff, and I can kind of help explain it to you, but it's really based on a lot of percentages and the probability and proc rates and all those things. So that's kind of how you do it. Okay, moving on to our next one. We are going to go to there we go. We are going to go to the instrument, okay? Instrument's great, okay? Unstoppable, fantastic, okay? 5% bonus to skill damage. Awesome. That's like amazing in and of itself, just like Counter, right? When dealing direct damage to a target, there's a 30% chance that the damage will be increased by 10%, cooldown 5 seconds, okay? So this allows you to do direct damage, and it's any kind of skill damage that you do to the target, you got a 30% chance to increase that damage by 10%. That's really, really good, especially when the cooldown is 5 seconds. So if you're hitting 2 active skills during a cycle, odds are that's going to proc, and then it's going to reset for 5 seconds, and you can go do it again. And so that's got a lot of uptime. And so Unstoppable, absolutely great for the wedge formation. Boiling Blood, You take a 2% boost to your skill damage dealt. That's awesome. Whenever the troop, now this is one that's more mitigating, right? Whenever the Yielder's troops deals direct damage to its current target, their troop has a 30% chance to reduce all incoming skill damage for 5 seconds. Or, I'm sorry, by 5% for 3 seconds. That's a 15% total in an 8-second cycle, because you got to add the cooldown there. So 15% for an 8-second cycle is nearly 2% skill damage reduction. So basically you're doing 2% skill damage boost, 2% skill damage reduction. That's a 4% total. Pretty good. There's not much that's better. But Embattled is really, really good. You're gonna, because it affects rage whenever your wielder's troops take any type of skill damage. Okay, this is why Embattled is so high for me on this and in the B category, because when you're in the field and you're murder ball fighting and you're going back and forth, you got skill damage coming everywhere. I mean, it's Zuge AoE, it's Joan AoE, it's Ash AoE, it's Guan and CPO. I mean, it's just AoE's going everywhere. So you're always going to be constantly hit. Okay, so when you get hit, that gives you a 10% chance every time. So you're going to gain rage pretty quick in a murder ball. So when that cools down for 5 seconds, it's not going to take very long for it to go up time again. So you're just adding 50 rage, probably in a murder ball about every 7 to 8 seconds. That's great. That's almost every cycle. Okay, so that's why I've got Embattled up so high. Of course, that's when we start fit with the health, and then you go armored in the next tier down, and then you get into the brutal with the attack on the next tier down. I've got uplifting. That's not quite in the arch formation tier list. Uplifting is like class A tier because it's amazing. It gives you the normal damage boost, but it still also works really, really well for Wedge. So you've got multiple different scenarios there. Uplifting's great. I like primed. Primed has always been a really good inscription because it's march speed when you have over 50% units remaining. Okay, that's the majority of the time. Getting to battle is a severity. You're trying to go as fast as you can, and if you get 5% extra march speed, great. And by the time you get below 50%, you're probably refreshing anyways, unless you're kind of an idiot like me that whale tanks and face tanks and literally runs it down. But most people will refresh. So for the most part, you get the uptime on this very, very much. So I really, really like that. And primed has always been good. Vengeful is a rage booster. Every 10% of troops lost, you gain some rage. You can cap it out at 10. That's every second you're getting 10 rage, which is great. Okay, so you got Devious in there. Devious obviously is a skill damage boost, 2.5% more skill damage. I put that at that D tier, which is like the 5th tier for this. And then the 6th tier, the E tier, you can see there's some counterattack in there. There's a little bit. Listen, Bluster and some of these other ones that do some damage, and give you like 3 nearby troops for a damage factor of 100. I'm not, especially when they're mitigating at 15%. I'm just not all that into that. It's some red numbers. It's great. It's just not a lot of damage. And honestly, with the cooldown, it just takes a while for that thing to fire off. So I just don't value that very high. Fine Horse has got a little bit of march speed. That's 2.5% march speed. Requital, it's the same type of deal. So any of these guys here that do a little bit of damage, I'm just, whatever. It's not a big deal for me. And then Spirited is in the F category. And the reason why, people that don't know, this all damage that they do, this troops deal 5% extra damage when it happens for 70% rage. I have a video about Spirited. You can go back and check that. And it goes through the verification from, Rock VIP, where they say, this does not work for your active skill. When you fire your active skill, you have 0% rage. It resets. So basically what they're saying is for the 1 second turn that you're going to run over 70% rage, and it's basically just basic attack, your white numbers and your counter attack if you're being hit. That's all that's going to do is give you 1 second of 5% extra damage. It's not during your active skill, never will be during your active skill. And to me, it literally calculates out to be about a 0.75% all damage. That's like nothing. Okay, don't fall into the Spirited trap, okay, and try to re-roll that thing and think it's really good, because that is not very good at all. So that kind of gives you the sum up of the instruments and how it works. Now we're going to get into some other things here, because it gets a little bit different each time, okay? So here, now this is one that's a little bit interesting. We're going to go to the emblem next, okay? Intrepid. Intrepid is my favorite inscription for Wedge, okay? 10% skill damage boost. That's it. That's it. It's like putting a double critted pendant on your march for free. Like, there are no downsides, there are no drawbacks. It's perpetual. The second you hit, you're rocking and rolling. And so this is like literally my favorite wedge inscription. I think it's S+ tier. It's wonderful. It works for everything. Any skill damage march you put out there works in the garrison, works in the rally, works in the field, works everywhere. And so that is, Intrepid is like one of my favorites. Focus Fire I have, it's got a 4% boost of skill damage dealt. That's actually really good. Okay, but if you see here, I have Artisan being just as good, and it is. Artisan has always been one of my favorites. It's 3% more skill damage, but you also get 1.5 points of counterattack damage. Okay, to me, 4.5% total, that equals the 4% Focus Fire gives you. So if you pick up Artisan and you've yet to have a rare inscription here, or you've yet to have a special inscription here, you can re-roll Artisan and get some good stats and use that, because it's really, really good. Okay, from there, we go into the Hardy, we go into Shielded, and Deflector. Deflector's another interesting one. It's 3% less skill damage of all types. That's almost as good as 4% skill damage boost. Okay, so this is really, really good. Deflector I rank pretty high. And then below that, now you have the attack, then you have the Watchman, the Smite. Smite's 2% normal damage. That's great, because that's counterattack. That's all the attack. You got Counterer, and this is actually really good, maybe for rallying garrisons, but you're taking 3% less counterattack damage. Okay, so that's wonderful. Enduring is always a pretty good one I like here. You're doing 3% more counterattack damage of all types. So those are really, really good ones that I put in kind of that D category. The F category, you got a little bit of haste, 2.5%. March speed, you got Militant, 1.5% normal damage boost. You got Evasive, that's got you take 1% less damage. Like, this is like the 1% all damage category. Like, it's just like, meh, not great. You know, like, I'll put it on there if I need to. And then last but not least, you have Line Shot, which does absolutely nothing for you. It's a V formation type deal, but you will deal 1% more normal damage of all types. But that's in the F category, like, because it fails. Okay, F is for fail. So there's your emblem, and that's how that works out for emblem. Now, next is the flag. Okay, we're gonna go to the flag, and the flag is always pretty interesting here because I've got Defiant ranked relatively low. And guys, when I do this, I talk to all the players. I talk to people who are experts in this game, playing it for years, and this is what they tell me. This is what I confirm and validate and agree upon. You know, even though I'm more of an arch guy, I've got crazy wedge stuff, and I know how to use the crazy wedge stuff, and I really rely heavily on some of these people that really know what they're doing. So balance is always pretty high. Balance is a great one. Balance is one you get from the courier shop. It's really, really good. It has normal damage resistance, okay? The reason why that's important is because the more Smite commanders we're getting out in the game, the more valuable that becomes, okay? Because now when you go out into the Murder Ball, it used to be everything hitting you with skill damage. Well, now you got a whole bunch of Smite marches hitting you. So if you have normal damage resistance, it just gets better and better and better as they keep coming out with more and more and more Smite commanders. Now, when you reach 80% rage, for the next 3 seconds, you're going to do 8% more skill damage, okay? So basically, if you have balanced and you have unstoppable, they do the same thing. One does it for the secondary commander, one does it for the main commander, for the primary commander. So that's kind of a cool little synergy that balanced and unstoppable have together. Okay, Assertive is like literally one of my favorite wedge inscriptions, especially common inscriptions. Okay, it's 2% all damage. Great, I'll take it. 2% all damage is great while you're on the map. It's awesome. It doesn't work in garrison, but if you're in a rally or if you're on the map in a murder ball, you're getting that, and it's awesome. So I put that in the category with vitality. I think vitality there is with the health. That's great. That's about the same amount of benefit that you get. And then I put Defiant down. Okay, now I talked about how normal damage resistance is good and it continues to keep growing value, but if that's all you're giving me is 3% normal damage resistance, there's a whole bunch of skill damage in there that I'm not resisting any of that. And so Defiant is a little bit difficult for me. I put it in the 3rd tier of the category with Strategic, and Strategic kind of has the same type of deal, but it does damage when you're surrounding troops. Okay, well, if you're in the Murder Ball and you click all your marches to hit something, you're surrounding the troops. You always are surrounding the troops, always, unless you're in a rally or garrison. But even sometimes in a rally, if your rally's got this on it and all your buddies are are swarming the flag that you're hitting, this is going to add 2% extra damage. So I really like strategic because the uptime is great. You're always hitting that stuff. Okay, and you're always surrounding it because that's how you run your marches. Metallics is in there. 3.5% defense, great. You take that. Now you get into the next category with the attack. You got spiked, cohesive. Brave is different. It's 5% counterattack when being surrounded. Okay, so if you're getting focused down, you're gonna be prickly. Okay, that's 5%. A vengeance is 8%. So that is like a good chunk of counterattack damage you can kick out. And especially archers, you're going to get focus as archers. At least kick out a little bit of counterattack damage. At least try to go down swinging if you can't get out of trouble. And you're gonna basically sad face your march. So that's kind of how you have Brave setup. Wary and Brawler in there too. Wary is, I love the march speed outside of Alliance territory. That's awesome. 5%. That's great. Typically, if you're on the offensive, you're going in to enemy territory or you got to march it far away, then you add just another 5%. Awesome. Put that on your archers. They need it. Okay, Brawler is another one, 2.5. It's like Devious. It's 2.5% more skill damage, and it gives you a little extra bonus to that counter attack damage. So there's all kinds of different things in here that are really good that help you. You get into the next segment down here is our kind of our D tier, if you will. 1.5% more normal damage. It's fine. Like this stuff isn't great. You get 2.5% march speed. You've obviously got rebuff in there. It's 2.5% more counterattack. So that's fine. I put the E category here for ballistics because that's V formation stuff. Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean anything. But then this is what makes it different with flags. Okay, the flag spot has rally and garrison attributes to the inscriptions. I showed that with the arch. Arch is the same way. Ballistic, sentry, siege work. It's got all that. It's got the same thing here. Okay, and so with that being said, when you look at this, Desperado, okay, this is like for a rally or a garrison. You take 2% less damage when when you have 50% or less HP troops in your march. You take 2% less damage. That's great for rally and garrison. Not necessarily great for the field. Okay, siege work, same type of deal. 2% more damage when you're attacking a city or a stronghold. That's awesome. That's great. Now, if you notice down here in this gray rally garrison tier, I didn't really rank those anywhere. So these are all pretty good and they have different levels of being good, but I just wanted to separate those out because what I'm mainly doing is for your field, just overall how you're going to fight. Okay, you hit sentries, 2% less damage while garrisoning. That's fine. Pursuer is one more that we have here. Let's see. You have 2% extra damage to troops with under 20% units remaining. Okay, this could kind of work for the field if you have it, because if you go turn and focus down a march that's it's about to die, you'll grab that extra 2% damage. But honestly, it's more for running long rallies and garrisons. That's kind of what this is for. So that kind of gives you an idea. And that happens with all the flags and all the formations. They give you all those different elements to it, and that's what makes it a lot of fun. You can play around with it, and this was a video everybody was asking for because the Wedge is such a popular deal. Most everybody has Wedge, and so with that, I wanted to make sure it put up that guide and make sure you understood. And then also I'll put up just the overall guide when it comes to the Wedge Armament tier list. You can screenshot this, you can send it off. These are kind of the tiers of how you can set up your inscriptions for each slot of your Wedge, and that's what this is for, trying to be as informative as possible and to help you out as much as possible. And with that being said, I'll end this one. Any comments that you have, be sure to throw it down in the throw it down in the comments, and I'll make sure and reply to everything. I'll go ahead and put the Discord link in there. Join the Discord. It's got over 500 people in there now. Discord has blown up. We're hitting close to 2,500 subscriptions. That's just in a week, y'all. So I can't tell everybody how much I appreciate them for jumping in and being a part of this little journey we're taking. We're having fun doing it. And you guys know me. I'm going to try to cut through all the BS, cut through all the fluff, and I'm going to try to give you all the informative things you need to know so you can go play this game at a higher level with more value. And that's my idea. And so come to my Discord, you'll see the conversations there. That's when we come up with a lot of these tricks and ideas and theories, and that is a kind of a think tank for all of us who are nerds about the game, and we test things out and we try different things. That's what we do and how we do it. We do it on my Discord, so I encourage everybody to join that. If you like the video, subscribe, throw a like on it, and we will see you next time, broskies.